Hello, everybody. We are live on YouTube and Facebook, and we are going live on Instagram, I hope.
Looks good.
There we go. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Monday afternoon Eastern Time. Where are y'all coming in from? I don't see anybody quite yet, but maybe we've got some people there.
It's quiet today. It's Monday, right? I think it might be because it's Monday.
It is Monday, and it's gorgeous where I am. How is it in Ohio today?
It's not gorgeous.
No?
It's a little kind of fallish, rainy-ish. Someone is telling us we're not on YouTube.
Somebody from YouTube is saying not on YouTube.
Oh.
So I don't know what that means.
Yeah, I don't know.
We've got lots of people on Instagram, so welcome everybody. We're so glad to have you here. We are here to talk about, is giving up the same as letting go? So I'm curious to get out of this 60 minutes that we're going to spend together. Jenny says, there you are on YouTube. Good. Yeah, so if you need something specific today regarding this topic, please let us know what that is. As always, know that this is Leslie Vernick's public page. However you are watching us, this is public, and so the comments that you put in can be viewed by anybody. So if you need to get a question to us privately, you can send that to leslievernick.com/question/, and we will be happy to take any questions you have about giving up or letting go. All right. So I haven't seen anybody say anything about what they're hoping to get out of this topic or why they've zoomed in, but I know that this has come up lots in the past for me with clients. What does it look like to let go?
Yeah.
To accept reality for what it is and to move forward.
What does it look like to let go versus giving up? Maybe sometimes we should give up some things, give up doing some things, give up wanting some things. But that has a really different connotation than letting go, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that? What are the things you think we might maybe should give up?
Good comment. The things we should give up are things that are no longer working, right? Whether that is behaviors I'm engaging in or, believing something from somebody that's never occurred and isn't likely to occur. Giving up, maybe I think we always talk about this, trying to change someone else, right? Yeah. So there are some good ways to wrap our brains around giving up. What else would I give up? Trying to give up sugar. I'm trying to work on my A1C levels, so I'm trying to learn and educate myself and give up. Of course, we're talking about relationships here, but my analogy is food. Like I'm literally trying to give up the things that create too much insulin in our bodies and learning a lot. Like basically it's everything I want to eat and what I crave. So I don't know about you guys, but when I'm giving up things, I get a little crabby. So yeah.
And that's a good point. Giving up things, there's still an attachment to it. I think that's one of the differences between letting go and giving up is that it may be hard to give up sugar because you really want sugar, right? And you're still attached to the desire for sugar. And so it feels like you're giving up on it, quitting it, but you don't really want to.
Susan, that is an excellent point that you make because there's so much fighting against what you're trying to move toward if you're not really wanting to give it up. Yeah, I have to make, there's some work for me to do there, making the decision that I'm done.
Whereas I think about letting go as you release it because you no longer see it as good for you. So the desire
Mm.
changes because you know that sugar creates a lot of havoc in your body. And so you're able to release it and let it go, and you're not attached to the desire anymore.
Even the words, as you say that, letting go, not attached to the desire, are much softer in terms of how it feels.
Mm.
It doesn't feel as heavy. It feels like a choice, like something I can agree to. Yeah, it's just I love the way you phrase that. I'm gonna rewatch this tape.
Well, I hope you find it helpful in terms of giving up sugar. But for
Yeah.
the rest of you, I hope for whatever it is that you're attached to, this may help you give some different language, because I agree that giving up is almost happens out of exhaustion. It's not a choice
Mhm.
as much as it is a have to, because you've got no more energy for it.
Right.
Whereas a letting go is more of a choice because you're making wise decisions that are good for you.
So, and I love the thought of letting go, kind of releasing my attachment to something or someone, so that I can get some peace or move on,
Mm.
right? Yeah, and
Mhm.
I think someone in our chat said giving up kind of implies more of a defeat.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Mhm. Uh-oh, we lost Susan for a minute there. She'll be back on. So I'm just going to read the chat here. It says giving up has a connotation of not being in control. If I'm letting go, I'm making a choice. I love that. Great point, Sherry. Hello, Anne from Nashville. Let's see. And I think Susan's coming back. Here we
Yeah,
go.
sorry. I told you before we got on, I've had tech challenges today.
I know. And I'm having a little bit problems trying to situate my camera. So, ladies, we just are asking you to be gracious with us today because sometimes tech isn't on our favor. Anyways, Jenny's saying she tried to go cold turkey with chocolate, but she kept finding a little workaround. So did I have any? Yeah, I tried not to. I didn't have any like pastry stuff yesterday, and I was a little crabby, a little low energy because you rely on that for energy, which implies something really interesting, Susan. Because I think I'm relating it to food, but wouldn't you say that energy follows in relationships too?
Yes. Yeah. How
Yeah.
are you thinking about that? Absolutely.
Well, I'm thinking that when I think about giving up, I think I'm at the point of exhaustion and I just don't have any resources left. So I'm totally depleted. But when I think about letting go, if we're talking about like emotional and physical energy, letting go for me is more reasonable. It's I'm letting go so I can resource myself,
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
that and I'm not at the point of exhaustion, but I'm recognizing mindfully that this isn't working. There's a better use of my time, my energy, my thoughts, right?
Mhm.
And so for me, energetically, it just feels like a better space to be in. Whereas giving up for me um, feels like collapse. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I think about it too.
Yeah.
Running yourself into a place of collapse and exhaustion,
Hmm.
depleting all of your energy, whereas letting go is reserving your energy for what matters most and
Right.
for what is actually beneficial.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I'm just going to read some of the chat here. And giving up has a sense of defeat. Letting go is a healthy choice. Absolutely. We agree. Um, so should we ask in the chat, what are you finding it easy to let go of? What are you finding difficult to let go of?
Mm. Yeah, let's get specific.
Yeah.
I love that question.
So what's easy and what's difficult? And then I'm also curious if I could ask you ladies, but we want to remind you, did you already say this is a public Facebook page?
I
Okay.
did, but it's worth saying again.
All right. Yes. So watch your Watch your chat if you're concerned about someone reading your posts, because this will be public and it will be on record. But I'm also wondering, when you're talking about giving up, what is it that has got you to the point of giving up? Right?
Mm. Yeah. What's depleting you?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, yeah. What is it that you've given up on because something's maybe too challenging?
Mm. Yeah, too challenging, or you just can't make it happen.
Right.
Maybe you've tried everything that you can think of. You've exhausted the possibilities, and you're at the point of exhaustion. Michelle says, is letting go the same as walking away? Could be. Depends on how you walk away, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. I think it could be as well. I think, and I'm going to read, I have some definitions here, which I really love because I love definitions. So when you're giving up, the outcome is you're abandoning your efforts because they're too challenging or something's preventing success. Whereas with letting go, I think the difference is it's really your mindset and your emotion. You're not quitting out of frustration, but you're making a healthy choice to move on. And so often I might make a choice to let go out of the need for personal growth, or just my maturity tells me there's no sense holding on to this. And I'm going to say I have a favorite author. One of my favorite authors is Henry Cloud, and he has a book that kind of speaks to what we should hold on to and what we shouldn't. And it's called Necessary Endings. So, yeah.
Mhm.
So Jenny's saying, I've actually begun a little excited about her future via letting go. So Tashina is saying she's giving up on hoping for change. And I'm certain that when you say that, it's been a while and you're looking at all of the evidence and past history, and it's a wise choice when it's not been different and there's no indication that it's going to be. That to me is resourcing your mindset, your emotions, and your behavior. I'm not going in a direction of, I don't know, hurricane force wind. I can't move through it.
Yeah, good example.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're faced with that, aren't we?
Mhm. You mentioned Necessary Endings, the book by Henry Cloud, and he has some really good questions in there when you're deciding what's worth putting your effort into, like
Mhm.
what is capable to be fixed and what should end. And a couple that I noted are, do you want the same reality, frustration, or problem 6 months from now? Another question is, do I want the same level of performance a year from now? Or do I want to be having these same conversation 2
Oh,
years from now?
good words.
Just to kind of center yourself, if things don't change, are you going to be okay? Or are you going to feel exhausted and depleted?
Mm.
And that may indicate that what's happening currently should end.
That's scary. That can be scary, right?
It could be scary, and that could mean a lot of different things, right? So your efforts might end, or the relationship might end. Those are two different extremes, right?
Or it could be both.
It could be
When your
both.
efforts end, the relationship ends. But no matter what, we're talking about stepping into uncertainty.
Mm.
And I think sometimes that's why we might cling to, even though we feel like we are exhausted and we need to give up, it's the uncertainty that can provoke fear that can prevent us from making wise choices about letting go and moving on.
Mm. Is that resonating with y'all?
Mhm.
I heard Diana say that the uncertainty and the fear that comes with that.
Mhm.
It can stop us in our tracks, can it?
Yeah, yeah. And I Yeah, and I think that there's always uncertainty, even if you've been in a situation or a role or a job that is depleting you and you feel like giving up. Um, the uncertainty can keep you in kind of lockdown, right? We call that freeze mode.
Mhm.
And it can it's often sometimes it feels better to continue doing what you're doing, even though it's not working. And I love those provoking questions by Henry Cloud. I'm going to have to dig out my book. I've been looking for it. And I know it's here somewhere. And I'm like, the minute I buy a new copy, I'm going to find it, you know? But yeah, I love that. Those questions are provoking. Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah.
Carol says in the chat, I don't really know if his change is real and will sustain. Am I being love bombed so that I take him back? I think that's a great question.
Mhm.
And as we relate it to this topic, there's a lot of uncertainty there, right?
Yes. And that's where I was going with my last comment is there's always uncertainty in terms of will it get better? Will it
Mhm.
change? And so you're kind of riveted on waiting for that change, even though the evidence might be this has been a long journey, right?
Mhm.
And so I think often that's what prevents us from letting go is maybe minute levels of change or promises or yeah,
Love
just
bombing?
yeah. Well, and also just knowing that God never gives up on anyone, so should we,
Mhm.
right?
Oh, there's a topic right there we could dive into, right?
Exactly,
Mhm.
exactly. Mm,
Yes, and then letting go of that outcome is so hard. And Carol's question, right? Letting go of that hopium, maybe that this is the time that it will be sustained,
yeah.
and maybe just resting in the moment and waiting it out. So if there's a pattern of manipulation, this love bombing might be a different form of manipulation, although if you think back, you may recognize it in the pattern,
Mhm.
right? As a kind form of manipulation, a different tactic that's well received by you rather than an angry tactic that pushes you away. It's always good to plot out that pattern that you've noticed over the years so that you know what to anticipate. And it can sometimes help you answer, is this just another part of the cycle?
Change
Um,
takes time, though. I
mhm.
mean, change takes time, and, if you've been in a long-term relationship with someone and you're at the point of exhaustion where you wanna give up, but you're not sure that you can let go, right? Um, I think something to remember is that, it didn't happen overnight, and change isn't gonna occur overnight. We are all in a process of transformation, and I just think about, how long it takes us to accomplish a goal. For example, a college degree, a graduate degree.
Mhm.
It's a transition of years, and it changes you in the process for sure, but, but it is a process. And so often when we're looking at, is it time to let go? How do I assess what change is currently occurring? Is it love bombing? Those are just fragments of hope and indication that there might be a permanence there. And I think everyone wants to know. I don't know. I always say that it would be wonderful if God gave us, what do we call that? A crystal ball that we could see, really, but He doesn't. And I think it was it Jenny or Anne put in the chat? I can't remember that. I think it was Jenny. Certainty is an illusion, except in the faithfulness of God. That's
Mhm.
such a powerful statement. And I think that's intended for us as believers to hinge on trusting God in all things, moment by moment. He doesn't lay out the full spectrum of what the future is going to look like ever. So here's my question to you. Just in talking about all this and thinking about Henry Cloud, I know he works with a lot of very successful entrepreneurs. So what do you think a successful entrepreneur does when it comes to letting go?
Hmm.
I know you're like, what are you getting at? Well, I think the truth is that successful people, whether you're an executive or a business owner, they don't mess around. They make quick decisions and they learn how to make good decisions and certainly know when it's time to let go, who it's time to let go of, who doesn't belong, in the organization. That is the way to run a successful organization. We are not that quick to make those kinds of decisions. At least I'm not.
Mhm. Sometimes letting go, I think, can be in much smaller stages. So it might be letting go of the pressure to make a quick decision on taking him back or not. So an executive sometimes, yes, does need to make quick decisions. But sometimes when we're talking about a relationship, a marital relationship, something that there's a lot hinging on it, right? Is to let go of that pressure to make a quick decision and give yourself some space because change is so slow in people, right? And sometimes being gracious means I'm going to give you that chance and I'm going to let go of the pressure of us deciding what's our future is going to look like. And you get to sustain your change and I get to watch and see, right? That can be a very peaceful way to let go of that anxiety that both of you may feel. What's happening here? I don't like the uncertainty. Let's put some certainty on it. We're staying together or we're moving apart, and just give it some time and space.
I love that. I think it requires a bit of discernment, doesn't it?
It does.
Mm.
Yeah, so I see a lot in the chat about what an entrepreneur does. They take big leaps of faith, plan heavily, and then jump. Sometimes we can do that in our relationships too, though, right?
Jump.
Well, sometimes plan heavily and then take the leap even though it feels uncertain. And that's where our faith comes in, right? Where we find our certain hope that we will be cared for and protected even when we need to leave and
We do the best we can do with those kinds of decisions.
Mhm.
Absolutely. So Jenny's saying my biggest issue is that my husband is the only human being who stayed by me, like in the entire world for this length of time. So I value the investment. And of course, I value the covenant too. Absolutely.
Mm. So I'm wondering, why is that an issue? And maybe I missed something in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that is compelling you to stay even though there's some big issues.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you're feeling beholden to him because he stayed with you through some difficulty.
Right. Yeah.
That's why I stay. Yep, she's saying. Yeah, so as we're talking, what's coming up for you in terms of questions? I want to give that again, leslievernick.com/question/ if you have questions. But as we're talking about this issue, the real difference, there's a lot of difference that comes in mindset between letting go and giving up. And we've touched on that.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it comes down to control as well. letting go is giving control to God, releasing that
Sure.
maybe even false sense of control that you might have over the situation, the circumstances, or another person. That in itself can be exhausting, right? If you're trying to control something you really have no control over, you can expend a lot of energy and you may not make any progress.
Here's a good question. Regardless of where you are, what would it mean for you physically, emotionally, and relationally to continue down the current path? So you've come here for a reason today, and this topic has resonated with you. And so maybe you are struggling with giving up or letting go, but just consider the path that you're on now. And what would it mean for you if you stayed on this current path, wherever your struggle is?
You mean what would be the costs and the benefits of that?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Staying on the current path, what would that look like? Where would it lead?
Right.
Great questions. So Jenny says, letting go and giving up feel impossible. I don't know what's meant by that.
And I guess I would ask the question, if I was coaching this person, impossible for what reasons and in what way?
Yeah.
What mindset are you holding on to that is preventing you from making some choices that you think could potentially be good for you? Yeah. And that's, when I think about people who are highly successful, they take risks, and I'm a very low risk taker. And so people who take high risks can gain very high rewards. They can also lose some things, but change is always risky because we don't know the outcome. But we can make good changes if we use discernment, examine the evidence, and obtain information from wise other people. I just want to say, if you're navigating some change in the area of relationships, this is where we specialize. And I want to invite you. We are still, I believe, I don't know when we're closing the doors. Do you know, Susan?
Friday, I believe.
Friday. Okay. So we still have an opportunity for Conquer Sign Up. It's the educational and support group that has several thousand members. So if you're looking for a community of women to walk this through and a ton of really sound and biblical and coaching information, this might be the place for you. And so we would look forward to having you if that's where you need to be and want to be. So I'd encourage you to kind of just do some research. You can go to Conquer Sign Up and learn a little bit about what Conquer is and what the benefit might to you be. We only open the doors twice a year, and that's your opportunity to try us out. So there's really no risk to you, because if you try it out and you're there for several months and you decide that it's not for you, you can step out at any time.
There is so much value in Conquer. I was just talking to a client today who was just in awe. She was new to Conquer, and she said, there's so much in there. And there is. And it can almost feel overwhelming when you're new. But that's why we've devised this program of really ushering new people through the program, doing a Conquer journey, helping to support you as you enter in, because it can feel like so much, and kind of helping you along that journey to scratch the surface of what there is to offer before kind of releasing you into all of it. So there is a bit of hand holding as you enter in for a while, but it is a self-paced program that you can do as much or as little as you have time for. And I'm just reading more of what Jenny's saying in the chat about an abusive childhood and then being abandoned by several people makes it hard to let go. And I think,
Yeah.
those early relationships or even the ones later where you felt abandoned, there's this need to be with people, right? In
Right.
order to feel okay, you need those relationships. And if there's that strong need,
Yeah.
it's going to be hard to let go, right? Because you're very attached to that person being in your life in order for you to be okay. And so, what we want to do through Conquer is help you be okay just being you, even if certain people are not in your life. That having Christ and some godly women to support you can be enough for you being okay. That you can get to know yourself, you can grow strong in who you are so that you're not dependent on others to be in your life in
Right.
order to survive.
Yeah. It's hard to make change just in and of itself, but making change without support, I don't know that I'd want to do that. We were made for relationship. I always say that we were broken in the context of relationship, and we're also healed in the context of relationship.
Yeah.
And it's powerful to have someone, some others who are like-minded, who understand some of these dynamics that are nuanced, because I think often what I find is that our ladies try to get help by well-intentioned people who are not aware of the dynamics of destructive relationships. And so that's one of the things I think we do well is stepping into that dynamic and helping you understand. 'Cause I think when you're in the middle of it, like even our topic today, we're talking about giving up or letting go. I just feel like there can be so much confusion in that, right? Because you've been in a place maybe where you've experienced destructive at the minimal,
Mhm.
or difficult at the minimal and abusive at the worst, but there's not a place of mental clarity there. So, having the help of someone other than you and a group other than you to how to frame things and how to think biblically through your decisions and discernment can help you to make some good choices and what to let go of, right? And what to move toward.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Summer's asking, is Conquer right for divorcing people?
Mm.
Absolutely. Because you are moving towards something new, right?
Yeah,
And learning how to be strong and independent within yourself. And Conquer absolutely has a lot of help
for sure.
for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So um, there are all stages of relationships within that. People who are staying well, people who are leaving well, who have already left. Um, it's a very large support group. So there's
Yeah.
many different stories represented in there.
So should we take some questions? I'm going to adjust my desk here just a little bit. Should we take some questions, do you think?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm going to pull up the question tracker. I think you probably have it up too. So ladies, if you have questions, you can ask them anonymously. Oh, okay. Here's a great one. I'm going to let you start it. Can giving up lead to letting go?
Can giving up lead to letting go? I think, as we've defined giving up as kind of quitting in the face of exhaustion, will that leave you in a desperate place of opening your hands to God? Possibly, right? And that's how I think about letting go is kind of giving over control, giving up your fixed desires and expectations,
Yeah.
really releasing that, releasing it over to God. So sometimes we find that in complete crumpledness, right? When we've totally quit and given up, is God finds us there as well.
So I have a thought, and I'm
Yeah.
going to apply this to my recent struggle with food. So if I step into giving up and I'm saying, and I'm framing my mindset Like I'm speaking specifically to myself. I am giving up. And I'm thinking like if you're struggling with I'm at the point of giving up. Like what are you telling yourself? Like for me, there's a lot of illogical ideas that I have to let go of. Like I'm giving up the idea that I can have let's just be real here, Susan. Like I just love to eat cookies every day, like every day. And I'm at a place in my life where I can't lose weight if I'm not willing to sacrifice. So I'm giving up the idea that I can cheat a little bit, right? And so my question is, this is a great question, but let's look at it in terms of thoughts. If I'm at the point of exhaustion and giving up, what is my mindset that I'm believing in? What am I telling myself that I'm hanging on to that's just not based in fact or reality, or it's just not helpful? And
Mhm.
I could go on and on about some of the things I tell myself as I go throughout my day. One of the other things is that I can eat lots of fruit and it's fine because on Weight Watchers, it's 0 point, but not if I'm working toward reducing sugar and insulin in my diet. I mean, like, I'm not diabetic or anything. I'm just health conscious. But so I guess if you're can giving up lead to letting go, I want to ask this person, what are your thoughts about where you need to give up? What is it that you're telling yourself? In terms of like start telling yourself the truth and moving toward letting go. And I think it is possible. Like I'm going to give up false ideas about what I can eat and still lose weight.
Mm,
And then I'm going to move toward letting go of those things that aren't going to help me.
mm. Yeah, there's a sense of failure and giving up, right? Sort of a I can't.
Yeah.
Whereas letting go is more freedom of I won't.
Yeah. I can't continue to have these thoughts that it's going to change or he's going to be different or I'm going to feel better in this relationship. That's what you've got to give up. Are the ideas and the thoughts and the beliefs that aren't working for you. And
Mhm,
then what are you going to let go of? I'm going to let go of that false hope.
mhm.
All
How
right.
how do I let go of having the need to call him out or letting him know I know? It's hard for me to let him think he's getting away with things, but also letting him know I know never leads to a good outcome.
All right. How do I let go of having the need to call him out? Oh, I don't know. What are your thoughts about that, Susan?
Well, that last comment, letting him know I know never leads to a good outcome.
Hmm.
So it's never led to a good outcome. Why do you want to continue to do it? What is the benefit of that? Sounds like there's a cost. What are the costs and the benefits? So maybe you're trying to prove something to him. I think it's more important for you to know you know than to let him know you know. And what is the difference when you know something? What does that do? What decisions do you have to make?
Yeah, there's really good information there. Like, I feel like we feel like calling someone out or
Mhm.
speaking to them about what we know is going to make a difference. So my question is that what you're thinking? The more I say it to him, maybe he's going to get it. And, is that maybe something you need to let go of?
Mhm. So the root of that sounds like you don't want him to get away with things, right?
Mm,
That's why you're calling him out. You don't want him to get away with things. Um, but what are consequences? Maybe so your own boundaries may come into play here. Instead of not letting him get away with things in terms of your words,
yeah.
calling him out of what does that look like in terms of living with him or relationship with him? What are the consequences to the harm that's being caused to you?
Mm.
So it may be more about action than about words in terms of really defining your boundaries. I think that may speak louder than calling him out because you're already saying it doesn't have a good outcome.
Yeah. I
Any
got
other
it.
thoughts on that?
No, I think you did well. I just feel like, is there any point in, I mean, I think the more you call someone out and they're interested in getting away with things anyways, they're just going to go undercover. So, and it sounds like there's maybe some history here where you've had some practice with this. And so I guess I would just use discernment on, what, and again, I think like, what would it gain you to just let go of the need to tell him?
Yeah. Release him to be the person he wants to be
Yes.
and protect yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Healthy people appreciate feedback when it's given in a productive way, right? Because they want to be better, to do better, to heal,
Right.
grow. And so if somebody is resisting it, I don't know what that looks like, or you say it doesn't have a good outcome, he's not receiving it. If he's not receiving it, he's not interested in change. And so that accepting reality is really what we're talking about in terms of letting go,
Right.
accepting reality for what it is. He doesn't want to change, and your investment in his change is going to exhaust you.
Susan,
Yes.
I have a question that is on Instagram that I'm actually able to pull it up a little bit. It's not on our tracker, but I think it's a good one for us to bring forward. And thank you for that, Coco lady. What if you've already checked out, in parentheses, mentally and emotionally in the marriage? Is that considered letting go? That's a good question.
It is a good question. I'd be curious to know, what does checking out look like? What do you mean by that? Letting go, I would not say is checking out.
Right.
It's releasing the person to be who they want to be. It's about accepting reality, but it's also about remaining your best self. So if you're a kind, loving person, you would remain kind and loving, right? And so if you're checked out, what are you checked out from? Being yourself? Are you distancing yourself from the relationship, maybe in terms of detaching? Detaching also is not checking out. So I would say those are not the same thing. What are your thoughts on that?
She's saying that she's already checked out mentally and emotionally. Is that considered? No, that's yeah. So I don't know. That's considered, I think,
Giving up?
yeah, that's considered giving up. And in some ways you've already left, but you haven't left physically. And so my question, I guess, to this person in this situation is, what is it costing you to stay in that place? It sounds like a hard place to be. Like, I'm not here mentally and emotionally, but I'm here physically. So it can be very confusing to be in that place, for your brain and your body and for the other person as well. Yeah, no, that's not letting go. That's very different.
For another question?
Oh, sure. I'm sorry, I'm messing with my camera a little bit, ladies. My head's going around. Okay.
How can I trust my husband again? He lied in the past about his finances to protect his ego, but over the past 10 years, he has actually accomplished the things that he said he would. He doesn't cheat. He provides financially, good involved dad, doesn't curse or abuse, but at least once a week, he gets the order of things wrong, speaks definitely about things that end up being incorrect, then goes into deny, defensive mode, goes back and forth, constant unnecessary conversation, and takes days for him to be accountable. At this point, I have given up because of the things in the past and because of his constant speaking, I don't know if things can be repaired. He doesn't harm me, but I feel like it's constant hurt. Can this be fixed? That sounds confusing and hard. There's a lot of good that you're talking about in that relationship, and some things that are really confusing.
Yeah, there are some things that he's not wanting to own. When he goes, well, I just think he gets triggered. He's going into denial and defensive mode. And I guess I would ask him some questions. I would, if it were me in that situation, I would just tell him what you're observing and ask him what's going on for him. I'm observing that, you're behaving defensively. You're not being consistent with what you said. And I'm just wondering what's going on for you. Sometimes when we point out what someone is going through or what they're doing, sometimes they can reflect on that. And maybe you'll get some information if you ask him about it in that way.
Yeah, and I think the attitude behind that is important. So if it comes across as a calling out, like I'm right, you're wrong, let me show you how it is, it's probably not going to go over well. But if it's more of a observation and a narration of what you see in a kind and loving way, it may be received well, may not be, but it is definitely worth a try.
Yeah, and I would start the sentence, as Susan said, like, I feel hurt when this happens. And I need you to know that it's causing me difficulty in trusting you. And I want to be able to trust you, but I need you to understand what's happening for me and open it up for some dialogue with him.
So your question, can you trust him again? Can this be fixed? That is not solely dependent on you, and that must be hard. There's a lot of uncertainty there. And there's only so much that you have control over, like using your words to be assertive, to be kind and give feedback. But will he receive that? Will he do his work? We don't know. So it will take a pattern of him being honest with you in order to repair trust that's been broken. And if he's not willing to step into that, it won't be fixed.
Yes.
So painful. All right. I'm maintaining my boundary and communicated that trust is rebuilt over time and with consistent behavior. My personal time is at least 6 months. Is that a sufficient time to wait and reassess? For new habits to be rebuilt. I think it's hard to put a time frame on it because there's so much to think about. So how long has the old pattern lasted? That's one factor. How much time and energy do you have to give to the uncertainty? That's another factor.
That's a good one.
I think it's good to have those markers in your mind. Not that you have to make a decision in 6 months, but a check-in, kind of a check-in with yourself, a check-in to see what change has been there. Are things the same as they were 6 months ago? Just kind of reassess your energy, your commitment, your feelings to see what your next steps are. What are your thoughts on that, Diana?
Honestly, I think every situation is unique. And as you said, it depends on how long that pattern of behavior has been going on. And if you're really witnessing authentic heart change from a level of, from a level of how it's impacted you. If you wanted me to go on my gut response without knowing any personal data, so this is not personal, I would say no. 6 months is not long enough to know if someone is really different. But how long is enough? And I love what you said about giving check-ins, observing behavior, because I think sometimes you may need that personal time to go to be on your own, but then also you need to give the other person the opportunity to demonstrate authentic change. Yeah. And I think, don't you think sometimes, Susan, that we know, like in our gut, like you've had time away and you step back in, and I'm just speaking of if it's your significant other. Don't you think that you know whether or not you can safely trust? You have a sense of authenticity, honesty, do you think?
I think that is something that is practiced and gained. Does everybody have that? I don't think necessarily that they do, because they've kind of detached from their feelings, from their body. But I think if you practice being in tune with yourself, noticing your feelings, noticing your body, I do think it gives you really good information, and it does help you discern. But that's the problem with giving up, is that you do kind of dissociate with yourself when you give up, right? You go into that kind of depressed, avoidant state, and you no longer are even in tune with yourself, no connection with yourself or the other person. And so it is so important to maintain that with yourself, so that you can take that information and use it for discernment.
I love that answer.
Thank you.
All right. We have just about 5 minutes left. Next one, detachment versus indifference. I'm hardwired to care. I cannot be in anything and not be in a caring state. How do I remain in a healthy state of detachment without moving into an indifferent mindset? I'm not sure I can quite wrap myself around that one. I'm hardwired to care. Cannot be in something and not care.
So I think there may be some confusion that detachment means not caring.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not true. Detachment means caring and not fixing. Right. And so I don't know, I think we're all healthy people are hardwired to care. Right. I think that's something that we have that's in God's image, to care for one another, to have empathy. That doesn't go away when you detach, right? When you're letting go of the outcome, you're letting go of your fixed expectations, letting go of your desires, letting go of your will and taking on the will of God. There's still care and empathy that happens. You don't lose that. But you can also release it and accept reality for what it is. So you don't have to be void of care. I think being indifferent is more that lack of care. Wouldn't you say that, Diana?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When you detach, you don't lose yourself. You don't lose who you've always been.
Yeah.
It's really a way to protect that. Any other comments?
No, I'm just looking at Instagram so I can see if there's anything in the Instagram feed that we'll need to address. We have one more question left on our tracker.
Mm-hmm. I think before we take that, maybe
Yes.
just asking all of you who've been here with us, what is your takeaway today?
Yeah.
What's resonating with you? What's feeling important about this topic of giving up versus letting go? And what will you do with that? Perhaps if you're in a destructive relationship and you're trying to let go of some things and not give up on yourself, right? Still keep connection with yourself, and you need help and support. Perhaps checking out leslievernick.com/conquer sign up would be a good next step for you, just to check out if that would be a good fit. There is so much great education within that site and also some wonderful support.
Absolutely. We thank you for your feedback and for engaging with us. And we're so grateful that you're here. We are here because we want to help and to offer support for you in a way that helps you to move forward.
All right, let's go ahead and answer that last question while everyone's centering in with their takeaways.
Okay.
So question, you ask your husband to do something that if you do triggers severe anxiety. He says he will do it if you do X. He says he can't do X as a reason for leaving it to you. I don't know, you have any thoughts on that question? I'm trying to think what it means.
I'm not quite sure I really understand what the situation is. In other words, she's asking her husband to do something that she doesn't want to do because it causes anxiety. And he's telling her that he will do something for her if she does something for him in return. And he says he can't. That's why he's leaving it to you. I'm a little bit confused about that. The only thing I can speak to really is that I don't really like it when when I ask someone for something and they make it kind of a quid pro quo. It just doesn't feel loving. It feels transactional. And I'm wondering if that's, typical for this relationship. If it's always transactional, that's really good information, but that may be his style of relating. I don't think you can change. I mean, you can make it apparent to the person that, are you aware that, when I want to give to you or you want to give to me, there always has to be something in return, that and maybe talk a little bit about what, pure love and giving looks like. I think sometimes people aren't aware of how they are in relationship. And I guess the question is, so you try to make it obvious and speak about it in a way that's non-threatening to him. Ask him if he's observing his behavior and what he does, and see if he's willing to receive that. I think sometimes we automatically assume that someone's entrenched in their behavior and they're not willing to take feedback. So I guess I would try that first.
And then, just relating this to our topic, if you've got a lot of triggers and anxiety, stepping forward into those, right, to heal them is going to be better for you. So maybe not hanging on so tightly to the triggers and the anxiety, right? The more that you resist doing things that make you anxious, the more anxious you're going to get. And so perhaps you need some work with yourself on identifying triggers, working through triggers, learning how to manage anxiety. Those are things definitely we can help support you with within Conquer. It may be something that you want to find therapy for, depending on what you're experiencing, but you're welcome to check out the Conquer sign-up page and see if that might be beneficial to you. And also I want to address Coco Lady in Instagram. If you're interested in finding yourself again while you're detached, Conquer is a great place for that as well. Helping you learn who you are, learn your boundaries, learn how to speak assertively, what brings you joy. Those are all things that we teach in Conquer.
Yeah. All right. Well, we want to thank you. Thanks for having me today, Susan.
Yeah, I'm so glad you could be with me today. I appreciate it. I appreciate all of you ladies for being here and for interacting with us. We love to see you in the space and just bringing your thoughts, your ideas, and your questions. So we have another Facebook Live coming up. Do you have that? Tomorrow at noon. Stop
Yes,
falling in love with potential. And it looks like, Diana, you'll be back here tomorrow at noon.
I will.
Okay, awesome. So, ladies, hopefully you can join Diana here again tomorrow with your thoughts, your questions, and your interactions. It's been a pleasure to be with you. And we'll talk to you all again soon. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.